Hello everyone, and welcome to M&M Chat. I'm your host, Jared Bornagle, and today I get to sit down with Michael Sinclair. You may know him from the actual plays Fae Forged Academy or Into the Motherlands, and he also streams on Twitch, and can be found just about everywhere under the tag Michael Crits, unless there's anywhere that you're hiding that I haven't noticed. So thank you so much for joining me, Michael. If you want to introduce yourself, add anything to that.
Yeah, of course. So you got most of it. Other than I always say too that I am a Navy veteran, so Navy corpsman that used to serve alongside Marines. Just because some people like to hear that there's veterans out there who aren't. I don't know. I'll just joke about it, like alpha. I don't even know what that is. But, just a regular
the machismo
person.
Aspect of it.
Yeah. I could be tough, but it doesn't. There's no reason for it at any given point usually. So it's. Yeah.
That's good. That's a good way to phrase it. You can be tough when you need to be.
Yeah. Otherwise, just chill. There's no sheep, wolf along sheep thing. I don't understand.
I'm assuming you spent a lot of time around people who gave off that air.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that I found you was the Into the Motherlands series, which is like a 12 episode series. I believe it's over. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's over. Yep, it's over. So it was a 12. Yeah, it was a 12 episode series, like you said. I think it's 3. Was it 3 hours long? I think it was 3 or 2 hours long. With some phenomenal people, people I was like, oh my gosh, do I belong here? But yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and so tell me about that. I guess what was that project to start?
Yeah, I think I could speak more freely into this. So the person who heads it up, Tanya DePass, Cypher she sent me an email and said, hey, I'm interested in having you part of the cast. We're looking at these people. Let me know if you're interested. And I was like, yeah. But they had several people. So it wasn't just me. So people know, because some people get up in arms and whatever. But I was like, yeah, I'm game. And the people who you put are awesome. And I'm really grateful to be part of the team. And Tanya said that this is going to be a whole bunch of people who are people of color. From all different backgrounds, and some people are, LGBTQA plus, all that stuff. And I was like, that is awesome. And she told me Twitch has set aside some stuff so that we can essentially build a TTRPG from the ground up as we go along. So that was a little bit wild. I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
Because I've never been part of some sort of building a TTRPG. I've never put out content.
Sure.
In any regard, but it was just kind of a rolling performance that things were canonicized, I guess is the word for it.
Yeah.
As we went along.
So was it a lot to do with the mechanical aspects? Was there anything around that, or was it mostly around the setting and figuring that aspect out?
The mechanical concept was pretty easy off the bat because Eugenio and Tanya and whoever was in the back, the back end, I'm just saying back end, front end, because programmer or whatever, but in the back end, they decided to use the Cortex system, and they figured out how they wanted to use it. Because they were like, hey, we're getting the Cortex book, here's a free whatever, check it out, look what's in here. And so I kind of went through it all, all the different types of rules, most of them. And so, because I didn't know, they didn't speak into things right away, and then when they said they were going with this, I was like, okay, I got it. It was the first time I've actually ventured outside of D&D as well. All I've done for TTRPG stuff is D&D stuff. So that was also new. It was I gotta learn this other TTRPG stuff. And Cortex is great. And it lends itself more to RP and story driven mechanics, if that makes sense. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was. And so you were playing the character Ilay, or was it? I forget. Ilay.
Yeah,
I remember.
It's a difficult name. I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I pick difficult names.
And when you were initially making the character on the stream, that was a specific point of contention of trying to remember or everyone else trying to remember how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not alone there. So I was unable to watch the entirety of it.
Sure.
But what was, I guess, what was that character? Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. It was Eli is one of the difficult's the wrong word. It was the character that I needed the most focus, diligence, and respect and work to do. Because they're non-binary, and I don't identify as that. I'm like a cishet male, and so I know there's a lot of people that Eli could represent out there, and I didn't want to let anyone down. And it's really important for me, for everyone to feel included and at the table. And so like none of the characters really, well, I think some of the characters might be queer. I'm not quite sure about I don't know how much we went into it during the show because it was kind of a long time ago, but I just wanted someone who's like, there and represented that, but also you always have to like bring into mind that that's not the only quality about them, right? So
sure, right.
And Eli had some influences from me growing up being Filipino, because I'm half Filipino, half Caribbean. I don't know why we use halves, but it's easier for people to understand. And so there's a lot of stuff that I picked from different places of culture to kind of put together into this one character. And because they were like a monkish kind of aesthetic, I wanted them to have like a lot of a calm aesthetic to like what it seemed like a pretty intense group.
Right.
And that's generally what I do for most like campaigns and stuff. I just fill, like I'm just, the fill slot or the flex slot, as gamers call it. And so that's kind of how Eli came to be. I also had to check in with like Tanya, other people in the cast, and I went to outside sources to check in, like people who identified as non-binary. It's like, hey, what do you think if I did this? Like, how should I approach it? Is this like the right way to do it? And give me feedback and stuff. So there was work behind the scenes. I wasn't just like, cishet male, I'm just gonna go do the thing and like, representation. Like, no, it was one of the roles I was like the most nervous about too. Cause it's like, I want to hit it right, because if you don't, and it comes off as inauthentic, people feel like, wronged or hurted, rightfully too. So
right.
Yeah. Eli was a big character in that way.
What were some of your big takeaways on that then? If with I'll say research into it.
I mean, it's just like for Eli, like everything else, for people in general, people want to feel respected and seen, and but they also want to not just be seen for that quality, because every person isn't based off their gender or sexuality, right? People are so multi-dimensional. So, that's how I approached Eli, was not only, I don't want to say not only were they non-binary, but with being non-binary, they also are all these things, with that being just another descriptor of
Sure.
them.
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic way to approach it. So you mentioned that that was your first foray outside of 5th edition, which, I mean, that's perfectly fine. I started on 5th edition. I've only played, I'll say, a handful of tabletops outside of that. I know some people, it's like, a list that goes on for days. But what initially got you into tabletop?
Yeah, so this is great, because that's why I mentioned military stuff in the beginning. I was in the military, and this is like, I think this is the last deployment or the last platoon I was going to be with before I knew I was like shortly getting out after. I was with sniper platoon, like a Marine Corps sniper platoon. And so like I knew that based off our training while we were in States, and when we were going to go push out, I was like, all right, like I need to find something that's lo-fi. Like I don't want to bring like consoles and stuff. I never really brought consoles on deployment or whatever. I never saw the point. Like there's always something else I could probably be doing, but I wanted some things to get people together and things like that. So I saw Critical Role, like most people, but I think I saw them when they first aired, because it was like 2015. And I think 2015 was like my last deployment. So
yeah, they'd have been just getting started.
Yep. So I caught them I was already tuned into Geek and Sundry for a while, because I started with Felicia Day, the Guild, like watching all that stuff, which led to one thing, the other,
right?
Sundry.
They got you.
Yeah. So it's like I'm not trying to say like I was in before it was cool, but like that's kind of how I got there, because I was looking for entertainment online that's like, hey, what's unique, what's out there that I kind of enjoy, but is kind of a little bit off to the left. And so like I saw that, and that's how I got into tabletop RPGs. Like I just watched Critical Role. I think I ordered the books. Actually, I was on deployment and I ordered the books to be shipped to Okinawa, Japan. And so I got the, the typical 3 Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook. And I just started as a DM. Like I didn't play, like I wasn't a player character at all. Like I was just like, okay, this is a game. Matthew Mercer's awesome. Like, all their characters are great. Like I just need to jump into, because no one else is going to take the reins if I don't. Like,
right, exactly.
When you're in the military, like people are as much as people think we're hardworking, like there's a lot of lazy people. So it's like, if I don't do this, no one's going to do it. So, and I think I researched like D&D within the military community, especially in Japan and other places, because like people are like, oh, this person's having fun, and like they're talking about like having beers and like eating food and hanging out in their barracks room, having a blast, like yelling, laughing, and we're not could call it liberty risk, like we're not getting into trouble or anything, right? Everyone's just having a good time, secluded in our own little group, and it was good. So that's kind of how I started the D&D journey. Then when I came back to America off that deployment, I started my first like real homebrew campaign stuff with a group in Irvine. So if people from Irvine are listening, they know who they are, and I could speak into them more if you want to later on, for sure.
Sure. And was it difficult finding a group at first, or was it like you said you were DMing and people were interested, or they just like flocked to you like normal?
I got them kind of interested. I had like this group who were all like kind of geeky, a bunch of corpsmen, and I think 1 or 2 Marines. So I think there's like 3 or 4 corpsmen. These are Navy people, and then like 2 Marines. And so, like, I was talking about it, kept talking about it, and I was like, this is awesome, like, look at this, and people were like, oh, so I could be this, like, I could be, like, a paladin, or, I could be a barbarian, or I could be, like, a necromancer. I'm like, yeah, this is all here, like, I can show you how to do it really quickly, because I literally just sat in my barracks room for, like, a week, pouring through everything, and then, like, okay, let's get this game going.
Right.
So that's how that started for the military. So it was easier because, like, if you want to start D&D, military is pretty great, because like no one can go anywhere and do everything at any time. Like you're usually stuck somewhere, so it's like, all right, people are stuck, they're bored. Like it's almost perfect for it.
Yeah, that's great.
So, but the Irvine campaign, I went around UCI. I don't know if this is allowed, but I went around and like printed out like colorful paper with like the D&D symbol and said, hey, I'm looking for players. Here's my social media, like Instagram and Twitter, and I just went around like, points of interest and laundry rooms in UCI and just posted a bunch of stuff. And then I think it took maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks the most. And then I was getting people who were like emailing me or, calling or whatever to say that they wanted to be part of the campaign.
That's awesome. So you just get like a whole group of strangers.
Yes.
Did you even have to like, usually when you play with strangers, there's always the potential to get some bad players. Was there any curation, or was it like a great group from the start?
It was a great group from the start, but except with one person, and then that person, nothing wrong with their play style, but they were very min-maxy and then like very objective about the rules and always swayed the rules in their direction. And I'm a new DM too, that wasn't with military folks, so I had a lot to learn too, because I wanted challenges for my players, but I didn't want them to be too busted.
Sure.
And so usually the players like kept winning, and I kind of at some point developed like DM versus player mentality a little bit, and then I had to cool it and step back a little. So,
and I totally get that.
Learned.
And I've had that issue before, specifically if players, I'll say, gloat. Just, like that, because it can build up that relationship and that tension of that DM versus player. When you're the DM, you're like, I'm trying to give like a great challenge, and then after they just steamroll it, you didn't expect them to steamroll it, and they're like, ha, we totally just destroyed that encounter. Like, you don't know what's going on. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm actually mad about this.
There's
mad
definitely
right
a little
now.
bit of that, but then I had to step back, and I had one person who's played tabletops for a while.
Sure.
A doctor, he was super awesome and like helping me under like DM in some ways. But he's like, hey, we're having fun, like,
right,
and that's great. Like as a DM, you should know, like, we know that we're having some challenges, know that we're having fun, and if we're having fun, you're doing great. And I was like, okay, so that helped me take a step back.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a point that all DMs have to cross. Is just there's a lot of pressure around DMing and being the one who's responsible for fun, or at least it can feel like you're solely responsible for it. It takes a while to get that mentality of, no, we're all here, we're building the story together, and if people keep coming back, there's probably a reason.
Yep, exactly. So I had to realize, like, yep, people are having fun, and if they're having fun, this is great, and just keep doing what I need to do.
Yeah. So you said that was your first homebrew campaign. When you first started, did you do a just like throw something together homebrew?
It was like,
or
you know, the Lost Mines of Found Delver. Like I kind of used that, but like toss in my own stuff like as we went along.
Okay, so you weren't afraid to you weren't afraid to tweak it right from the start. Then.
No, yeah, I didn't. I knew that you can tweak from reading stuff. Like even the DM manual said like, hey, if there's something you don't like, change it up. And it's like, okay, cool. So like I have the permission to. So I did that from the bat, and then when I got to, like I said, Irvine, I got really serious about like, let's make something from the ground up. But using obviously D&D 5e. So
sure. So you do have your own homebrew world.
Yeah, I still have it. It's still there, and the stuff that my players had, like Irvine campaign did, like their stuff still echoes in that game. So I haven't like spun it up really since then. I've had a couple people playing it here or there, like couple one or a couple shots in. But the stuff that they're doing, you know, that they did, I wanna have a contiguous like world. So
sure.
Yep.
That's the fun of making your own world, right? It's just that idea of things players do will continue on forever, and we'll just always be able to go back to that.
Absolutely.
So you've mentioned a couple of times, I guess you said that the problem player had a very min-max kind of rules lawyery approach. You know, in general, how important are the mechanics to you for D&D? Like, do you like that crunchiness, or is it just like, you know, play however you want, play by rule of cool, basically?
Rule of cool is like the way I like to usually go and do things, but I think I like using the rules as a foundation, and then going from there. So like when I make magical items, I really don't look at the DMG. I'm just like,
sure,
what's cool, or you know, what is the player's mind about how this character functions, right? And so I try and like tweak magic items to do that, so that we don't have to like go too deep into the rules. Like someone wants to like, I don't know, make a hero that's kind of like Nightcrawler from X-Men. I'm like, okay, maybe I give them an item that they could like, bamf, 3 places in one day, and it needs a recharge. Like,
sure,
try and do stuff like that. And it was time when like the healing spirit thing was pretty busted back then, and like,
oh yeah,
that was like a point of contention. And, so I think I'm at a pretty good balance. I just back then I got really frustrated when like something in D&D was like, you can do this, and the players were like, okay, I'm gonna use and abuse this, and I'm just like, oh gosh. So I think I fall now probably about the middle or more towards the rule of cool, but obviously the people I play with now are probably people I trust more, and they don't seek to like, have an antagonistic approach between me and the players, and also,
sure,
it's the people I play with are more story driven than like crunchy, and then like, I 2-shot like some lich or something. So
now, you've mentioned a couple of times, not on here, but that you love warlocks. Am I correct there?
100%. 11%.
And you're currently playing a warlock on Faeforged Academy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's it like being so goddamn cool? And
I don't know what that means. Like I don't know what that means. Like as far as like, if you're speaking of the Faeforge, like the person I play, Besky, is amazing. He's like Warlock. If a Warlock was completely nice and everything was amazing and like
I picked up on that. Sorry to cut in.
No, go ahead.
He very much came across more like a wizard. I was initially anticipating it being a wizard until you started pulling out Eldritch Blasts.
Oh yeah.
And what I meant by, what's it like being so cool, very often I profess my love as well for Warlocks. They are a very interesting class. But what draws you to Warlocks specifically?
I think I always had like a connection to like macabre or like goth themes or like, and then like being all not being all powerful, but like, there's a power that comes with being a warlock that there's like attacks on it or there's like some repercussion. Like there's a working relationship that's kind of dark and a little effed up and like,
right.
I don't know why I like that. But that's kind of like, I like warlocks is because it even explains in some places, I think in D&D, like, or people, in Wizards of the Coast have explained like, wizards hack magic, or warlocks hack magic, right? So they're not supposed to have access to X, Y, Z, but they make things work. And so I think warlocks as well have like I always like playing things that are like off to the left or kind of unique. And I feel like warlocks have like such a weird sandbox or like I don't even say sandbox, like a little cage that they're in. And it's like, trying to, I guess, min-max that cage. I know I don't like min-maxing, but there's only so much you can do that's messed up as a warlock, right? Unless you're like Sorelock, like, which I don't do. So, but like I try and stay in the confines of warlock and like really try and maximize the storytelling or maximize the thing I need the warlock to do, whether that be magic or crowd control or something to the fact, because like you're limited, right? You can try doing all the wild, amazing things as a warlock, but you are still limited to like 2 or 3 slots. Like you're not gonna, you're not going to break the game in general. So yeah, I think that's why I like warlock. Warlock is a challenge, and the whole relationship between warlock and patron and or matron, whatever have you, and I just love it. I don't know why, because like I'm starting to play wizards now, and it's like, oh, I just grab this, grab that. I can cast this, I can cast that. I just do whatever. And like another thing I'm doing is a cleric, and they have access to everything.
Right.
So, and that's new to me. But I think I don't know. Warlock is just like my home, my safety, and I love it.
Sure. Have you? So you're playing the warlock again on Faeforged Academy. Have you played other warlocks like long term and been able to explore that, let's say, patron or matron relation?
No, unfortunately. Like Besky is probably my most like continuous PC character that I've had. Anytime I play warlocks, though, like I try to play warlocks on one shots. Like, what if I played this flavor or that flavor? And if people have followed along, like they'll know that that's kind of what I do. Like I played the Undying in one of them. I played, what's another one that I played? I don't remember, but I try and like experiment with all the different warlock subclasses and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any of them specifically a favorite, or is it just like whichever?
I think Undying, because it's like everything I've wanted. Like I love vampires. I love like ghosts and ghouls and lich stuff, like obviously. So I think Undying, like when they released that, I was like, finally, like this is it. Because like, you have like your Cthulhu based warlocks, you have like your fiendish ones, you have like your starry good boys and good people.
The celestial warlock, the cheater warlock.
yeah, like warlock light, but not really. They obviously like can be powerful in their own sense, but nothing kind of spoke to like my vision of a warlock or lich, like the Undying. Undying was like, bam, that is happening. Like if I ever get to play this as a continuous long-term thing, I'll be so happy.
And what is I keep forgetting the name. What's the name of the one in Faeforged?
Celestial?
No. The character you're playing. What's their name?
Besky.
Thank you. What is Besky?
He's a celestial warlock.
Oh, he is a celestial. Okay, you were answering the question.
He's like, because a lot of his spells, like even his Eldritch Blast, it's not like that purple, like necromantic, like spooky kind of like ray or beam, right? It's like it's kind of like a super cutesy anime like Star Blast kind of thing, you know, in a way. So it manifests that way. So it's not, Besky is like celestial and just everything that a good warlock could be if it was the thing.
That's great. I always love being able to reflavor Eldritch Blast and just whatever way makes sense. That's like half the fun for me as a warlock. It's like, ooh, what's my Eldritch Blast gonna look like?
Yeah, it's so signature, right? So like you have to change it up, and I think in Eldritch Blast or somewhere it says like it doesn't always have to be like this green purple like thing. It just flavor it your way in a sense, because you don't, right? You're so limited as a warlock from everything you can do. So like you have to at least give your Eldritch Blast a skin, I guess.
Right.
Is what you can call it. Like, you know.
Don't even have to open any loot boxes for it.
No, you don't.
That's awesome. So, are you in any home games right now, or is it just Faeforge?
I was gonna spin up a home game. Obviously, like everyone says, like in like March. March is the story, right? But we're a year later. And I was gonna spin up that, and I end up not doing it because it was like we played like maybe 2 sessions, and then that all happened because I was going to start doing a home game, and so now I don't do any home games or anything of the sort. I just play stuff online now, and all the stuff I play is televised, or not televised, but like it's in media. Like I'm not playing anything for like my own personal entertainment or what that's like not attached to anything. Like everything that I'm doing is a form of media some way or the other. Sure.
And how is that, that is different than just playing a home game with people? I guess, do you miss that off the air aspect, or doesn't matter to you?
I guess, to be honest, I don't really miss the off the air, because like all the media or on air stuff, like, you're coming to a game that week. Like, I think that's the one actual like super benefit of like being in TTRPG media is like, if there's a game, that there's more than likely going to be a game like 90% of the time. Obviously, people get sick, DMs, something happens to DM, life happens, but like more regularly, you're going to have your game. So almost like in some regards, like I kind of enjoy having all my D&D stuff attached to media because I know I'm going to be in a game.
Keeps it consistent.
Yeah.
That's great. And it's just like a constant source of motivation as well. Yeah, I'm sure there's many times you hear about DM burnout and such, which can still be real, especially with a recorded game, but there's still that extra bit of motivation that you gotta do it.
And I don't DM anything. Like, I only DM one-shots now, and I haven't DM'd anything like media-wise. I did once with Encounter Roleplay. That was my first intro to TTRPG media. Yeah, I don't like do TTRPGs on my own channel because that's stressful and I don't want to do all that. And DMing is just another beast, and I'm still in school, so like, there's all this focus and attention and care that I'd want to bring, and I'd probably do my whatever it would be. Like, even if a new module came out, I would just reflavor it for my homebrew world.
Sure.
But I don't have the spoons or the bandwidth to like DM at this moment. Like, I can just keep playing, be a player character, and then maybe I'll revisit that when I'm out of school of being a DM. Yeah,
no, I definitely get that. It is quite a bit of effort. Now, I mean, but you DM'd for quite a bit of time, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Did you, I guess, do you have like a preference, or is it kind of just, what you have the time for?
It's probably what I have the time for. Like, when I first started playing D&D, like I started as a DM, and then I was a DM for like 3 years, and before I touched anything. So, like, being a player, like actually being a player. So, I think it's kind of where I'm at. I think it changes from time to time. I haven't had the real big DM itch lately. So, and I think that also just speaks into I have so many interests other places, and I only have so much time. But I'm enjoying being a player, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah. So to talk about some of those other interests, I mean, it's only fair to branch away from tabletops. I know that you stream. It looked like a lot of Apex sure some other games as well peppered in. Talk to me about that. What's
Sure.
streaming like? I have never once streamed myself, but I did play Apex a lot.
Nice. Well, hey, hit me up, gamer tag and stuff after. But so I started my stream. What did I play when I first started playing? I think Overwatch was my first, and I think this was in 2018 as well. I started as an Overwatch streamer, and Destiny streamer. Actually, I think Destiny was the first one, the first Destiny. And I was really good at that. And then I did Overwatch and some other stuff. But now it's kind of like whatever I feel like playing.
Sure.
I was playing MTG there for like maybe 6 to 8 months on my channel, Magic the Gathering, and got pretty serious into that because I just wanted... There's always like these things that show up and I'm like, this is a challenge and I need to just do it. And like I grind it out. I'm not like, I'm going to be the best or... it's almost like a challenge in a sense of like... This might be messed up, but like there's a selection of people who always keep showing up in certain genres and like they're like, we're better than you because we do this. And I'm like, F all of you, I'm going to do it and I'm going to start crushing everyone. So like that's kind of how I approach the thing. So like, there is a general population that plays Magic the Gathering and I'm just like, okay, this isn't special. Like you're not I don't want to say like you're not special, but like I don't know. This can be open to anyone, right? And so, and I want to be representation that shows up there. So, like for Magic, I did that, and it actually lent its skills to me being a better computer science student.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It was the best thing that has ever taught me anything about computer science because the rules are logic based, and then there's a thing called the stack, and the stack interacts in a way that a computer usually works anyway. So I had better ways of understanding things because I could like hold abstraction in my head about everything that's being piled on into like an imaginary stack of things and then trying to figure out how they end up resolving or how does it all pan out at the very end. And so I think when my brain started to comprehend that, I got a little bit better at computer science because I was able to conceptualize things better and have better abstractions. So
sure, that makes plenty of sense. So it definitely sounds like you have like a bit of a competitive drive, which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I know
it's low key. It's really weird though. Yeah. It's like a low key, like slow burning competitive. Like I'm not over the top. I'm not like F you noobs and being toxic. It's just like this slow burn of like what's something that everyone's doing or like a lot of people enjoy that like I haven't built the skills for or haven't done at all or whatever, and I'm gonna go try to do that. The last pillar is StarCraft, and I don't feel like and like what is it, MOBAs or like the
MOBAs like League of Legends and that.
Yeah, like I've dabbled into MOBAs and I played StarCraft when I was like a young kid, but like I don't. And the slow burn might happen for those, but like those are so into. I know like the general knowledge that you're supposed to have and reactions and those things are like pretty high end. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think really the only time I've ever gotten into an RTS was Halo Wars on the Xbox 360, and that's not really considered a competitive or I'll say high skill RTS.
Yeah. So. But yeah, and then the other place I play Overwatch, like with Critical Bard. Some people in D&D community like playing Overwatch, and then I've just gone to Apex. I was playing World of Warcraft. I like played the new expansion. Got into just touching the heroic raids, and then what was the other thing I did? I did some other game, and I was like pushing pretty high there too. I don't know. I'm kind of just all over the place. It's part of I think ADHD. I just like there's something that's new, and like I get hyper focused and do that.
No, hey, I mean that's not always a bad thing. Nice to be able to say just become a little proficient in everything. Get the jack of all trades.
Yep, that's basically it.
Overwatch that's a big one for me personally.
It's good.
Have not been able to fully quit Overwatch, despite the sometimes frustration.
Oh yeah, like all these games, like Overwatch and like any of these FPS like team things, you could just tilt off the planet.
Right.
You're like, I did everything right, but my like team threw out. Or sometimes even like I just learned what IGL means, like in-game leader. Like sometimes you in-game leader things properly, and people just still throw overboard, and you're like, what's going on? Like you can only, there's. And I'm learning this, like, I'm having to start to learn, like, especially for Apex and maybe Overwatch at some point, like, I just have to clutch everything out. Like, you come to the point where you're just, like, you can help your teammates so much, but then you just have to be, like, clutch person and just, like, carry everyone on your back. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that a lot when really talking about any competitive I'll say video game, but I'm sure it's everything, where you can rely on your team. You have to rely on your team to some extent, but at the same time, like, in order to climb, in order to get better, you have to be doing your best every single time. As you said, you have to clutch it. You can't just wait for somebody to do it right.
It's upsetting because I coming from a military background, if everyone's like proficient and does the right thing, you can achieve like huge greatness even compared to like a play. Let's use Apex. Like if you had 3 players who were like consistent and they performed, at a required level, not even like overboard or all clutch. Like if you all just perform proficiently, you could beat a team that even had like 2 clutch players, right? Because you're all just doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you can have a team of 3 and 2 of them are clutch and one's just a thrower, right? So, and that's the concept I get so frustrated and tilt off the planet because I'm just like, listen, like you don't have to go wild. Like you just need to do the right things at the right time, and I say them, and we can do this, right? But then I don't know. And then there's also people I've also seen online, whether it's like any other game, that just they feel entitled or expect that you're gonna carry them. Like they want to ride the ranks up by people carrying, and I don't understand that. Like. They're just like, I'm here. They're complacent. They're like, I'm here. I'm just here to play. And like, what do you, like, they blame you for everything. I'm just like, you were like, I'm getting into gaming, but like,
no, you're fine.
Like, you were throwing off the planet. I'm supposed to like save all that? No.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I think, one of the frustrating things about online gaming in general. Unless you're playing with people and you're like building that teamwork with, there's such this anonymity to it where you don't know why that person is, I'll just say, so bad in that scenario. Like it's like it's just frustrating. It could be very frustrating because you want to just grab the screen and just say, why are you like this? That's all you can do.
Yeah, and we're all capable of throwing. Like there's definitely times where like I throw and like I try and analyze and improve, but yeah, but
I can count, or I cannot count how many games I've finished, we lost, and I'm just like, man, I sucked. Like that was a lot of that was on me. I did not have
missed
it.
every shot. What am I doing? I need to get off McCree.
That's what I was to say.
Why didn't you tell me earlier?
Somebody goes, McCree, why did you die every high noon? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I was doing.
I don't know. I literally had you as a shield, and you dropped down off of my shield, and they just blasted you. Like, I don't know.
But I think that is very much so what separates a lot of I'll go further than saying gaming, just a lot of good people and frustrating people to be around. Yeah. If you can recognize like, oh, I'm not perfect. I'm super not perfect here. And just, take that step back, analyze what you're doing. You'll improve most likely.
Yep.
But if you're going into competitive and expecting people to do it for you, it's not going to happen.
Yep. Like I've been trying to improve in all fronts in Apex, faster looting, like I've downloaded aim labs because like I've gotten old and like not old, but like I've spent away time from FPS. I used to be like a huge FPS person, so like my reactions times are slow. Like even the FPS, like the aimbot stuff is telling me like, hey, you're like weak here, or you're slow here. I'm like, man, I used to crush this as like a kid. Now I'm having to like old man practice aim labs.
Right. So you're like, what's different? Flashback to you as a kid, like slamming Mountain Dews.
Dude, Red Bulls. Like I had like a seizure one time, like a mini seizure from like drinking like 6 Red Bulls like for 3 days in a row, like at night. So like I was like, oh, this is not good. Like,
these aren't healthy. Well, and see, look at that. You saw an issue, you reflected on it, and you stopped.
For sure.
To bring it back to tabletops a little bit,
Sure.
one of the things that I love about just tabletops in general, but like specifically being a player in them, is the fact that teamwork is expected, and you actually get to work with a group and, you know, yell things out in the middle of the game and work together, unlike video games.
That's true.
So you mentioned earlier, you know, you've got your own homebrew world. I feel like I've never met somebody who's made a homebrew world who didn't want to share about it. So tell me, what is your homebrew world? I know it's been a while since you've run something in it, but
Yes, I could tell you about it. I don't remember the perfect name. I don't remember the name.
that's okay.
But anyway,
It's Michael's world.
Yeah, it's Michael's world. So the world is, I think I have like 3 or 4 major continents. One continent is like the main big one, and it has like a huge city that's kind of like diverse, and it's kind of like, you know, the central trading place of the
Sure.
whole world.
Sure.
And then I have another continent that's kind of more similar to like East Asia, and like pays homage and respect to that type of stuff. You know, being Asian, like I wanted that in my game. I have another place that's kind of like Wakanda, because like that's amazing to have. Another Viking-esque, like I have like kind of the nice fantasy like spread, and then like I try and see how these all these people interact with each other, and like
Sure.
what organizations stem forth. I also have like, you know, I've never been to Burning Man, but I have like this own thing in the big continent in the center of the desert called the Smoldering Seder. And so like there's an event that happens like every year called the Smoldering Seder, and like, you know, people from all over this world go to. So
It's
it's an awesome place.
Basically, just it was Burning Man.
No, like, right, I was just trying. Yeah, it's basically Burning Man, but
Right.
like I just called it Smoldering Seder because
Perfect.
it's fantasy world.
Right,
Yeah,
of course. Gotta change up something.
Exactly. So, and then, you know, designing the gods from scratch, or from different or from like content, because like there's certain players who come up and they're like, oh, I really want the Raven Queen to be in this game. So I'm like, sure, why not?
Okay,
Like,
so it just kind of became like an amalgamation of
yeah,
what made sense.
yeah, it's kind of like a harmonious Frankenstein of all these concepts that come together and end up working out and creates beautiful stories.
Sure, and I think that's the way to do it, because you make some weird stuff, but that's what makes it yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the weird stuff, you know, people, I don't know for other DMs out there, but like the weird stuff is great, especially when like you have 2 weird entities or organizations or cities in your world, and you figure out how they interact with each other. Like that's where you get like the realism, or like how your world feels alive or real, is like all these interactions, how these play off of each other. And I think that's what makes every world unique, and how it makes your world feel more real. It's just like, yeah, you can like grab things from all over the realms of TTRPGs and slap them together in one place. But, you know, you as a DM, it's like, I don't want to say on you, but it's like wonderful as a DM to like figure out, okay, how is, you know, these organization of monks interact with, you know, this cult of warlocks, you know, to the south. And, you know, this cult of warlocks, they're known for like really good trading, and people come through there and like all this stuff. And like, how are these 2 people going to interact? Like what kind of either conflicts or kind of, you know, how do the partnerships form from this?
Sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned an organization of monks. That's been like a really big, I was going to say kicking point, but that might have just been like a bad
Sweet.
monk pun. But it's been a really big sticking point for me, because I feel like monks they don't get a lot of love as a class, but like making an organization of monks can be super interesting, and that's like just a neat way to play them out. Did you have like an organization of monks? Was that okay?
Yeah, so I had the organization of monks kind of be like a mixture of they were like Ayun monks, essentially. If everyone's familiar with like Ayun. I think Ayun, I don't know if it's just a Matthew Mercer thing or if it's a D&D thing.
I can't even keep it straight anymore. There's so much lore.
It is, you know, Matthew Mercer is D&D. Anyway.
But he does that. He pulls a lot from the Forgotten Realms. He's like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
smashed stuff together too. So
So I made, these monks in charge of like, basically like the secrets of Arcana. Like they have in my world, like they have access to 11th through 13th level scrolls. Like some of them can cast it through being so enlightened as a monk, and most can't. And if a wizard or someone maleficent got access to those, it would be really terrible. So like, I kind of have it being like a little Doctor Strange / Ayun kind of organization of monks in that world. It's been like whenever the players get to interact with it, it's really cool.
Yeah, that's neat. And that's an interesting twist, because it sounds like the monks then become the holders of the highest arcane power, which I feel like is very different than what you normally see. Of course, wizards being the ones to take that throne.
Yeah. I think what happened, I think in my world, if I remember it correctly, it's just like, the access to like the highest magics, which, some wizards may know, like good wizards in my homeworld may know and have read the scroll and copied it down. Like, they are protected by monks because you have to be a really high practicing monk to like know how to use these spells and do stuff that way. And so it's kept under protection by them so that there's not as much, what's the word for it? Ill intention, or there's less ways for people to be selfish or greedy. I don't know what the word this is, but like there's less chances for something bad to happen.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, keep it simple.
Wizards are curious naturally, and monks, they're also curious, but more, towards the inner self. And
sure.
So I think it lends itself to a sense where it's just like, okay, it's forbidden magics. Monks kind of hold the gates to that, and a whole bunch of monks against a wizard, like, yeah, wizards can throw like a bunch of fireballs and all this like wild things, but like a group of monks can take down a wizard.
Sure.
So
I like that a lot. Yeah, I get to build up the I think just what you're saying about the monks having like the more self-control, and like they're still curious, but it's more about that inward self-progression. It's not about just the power for the power. It's about the knowledge of it, and how can that be used to make themselves better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's always what I've tried to play up with monks, is that idea of personal growth.
Mm-hmm. And at schools, like I have it in a place where it's like, they take like drifters or all these people who are like want to change their life, or like, or even running away from something, or like have done some sort of like terrible thing, like, the Black Watch in Game of Thrones or whatever.
Sure.
But I have it be like this monk journey from like the bottom of these steps to the tops of it. And if you want to become a monk, you have to at least make this journey with like no water, no like anything, like you and your clothing going up this thing to seek enlightenment and go to this monastery. So I think it's a pretty cool thing, not just for the monk's sake, but like, there's a path. This is another path to redemption for like any NPCs that have done bad, or even players in some sense. So
that's really cool. Before I end things, just to make sure, is there anything you want to talk about?
Oh, okay, sure. This is probably a good... Yeah, so I guess if I'm freeballing it, if I just want to speak to
Go
people,
for it. The world is yours.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think I'm always going to speak into like more representation no matter what. Like whether it's like TTRPGs or video games like Apex, Overwatch, Magic the Gathering, like you just... I just want everyone to support each other more, to bring, marginalized folks to, front and center, or like in these communities, because I think games grow, communities grow, so much more can open up when everyone's kind of invited to the table. It's kind of I don't know. I think that's the one continuous thing I have, at least for anything that I try and do or think of.
Sure.
Is I have that in mind.
Yeah, gatekeeping has been kind of the status quo for a little while. I mean, I'd say the past decade or so, it seems to have revolved around that. It's been really nice seeing the community start to open up over the last couple of years, and really, whatever avenue it is, video games, tabletops, everything, it seems like we're getting on the right page.
To me, it's just such a strange phenomenon. It's like, a lot like me growing up, and it's common to most people's gamers journey, especially for like people my age or millennials. It's like you were ridiculed, you were othered, in a lot of cases, and this is a place where you found comfort and acceptance. And it's like, this is like most of the times this is the case. So like, why would you repeat the things that people did to you to other folks who are interested in your hobby? Like, continue the cycle is kind of silly, ridiculous to me. So, I think having everyone being able to table and like having a place where people can escape, right? It's about escapism, right? So, and also to add on, it's also not also escapism. It's also like a reality check in some senses, because I didn't speak about this in my world, but there's a benefit to me having a D&D game that was mine, and I used to be a life coach and a facilitator, so I've been able to kind of create lessons. And this is something I spoke into, if you've seen like any Twitch, my Twitch things, when people ask me like, what's your main thing in D&D? I'm like, I want people to learn. I want people to take some sort of moral lesson or come out of a different perspective. Sure. And so, in my world, someone had gone through some sort of trauma, and they talked to me about establishing these villains, and like, I kept checking in with them, but it wasn't really a goal. At the end of it, they said, hey, this really helped me through this thing, and then also helped me with autonomy, and it really helped me like, go figure out how to go about relationships. And some of the like content was like, edgy content that I'm not going to speak into, but it was like, because I was able to facilitate that in a safe manner and do check-ins and stuff like that, like people can grow from these games, not just D&D, but everything else. And so it's like, realize that there's always opportunity to like teach something, no matter what game you're playing, and creating and being that person for someone to like, I don't want to say fix, but like improve, or like come to some catharsis about something. Right. Realize there's always catharsis, in video games or TTRPGs that someone could come to, and you could be helping someone out. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I love that mentality. It's a great way to approach the game in general, and it's more than just rolling dice and numbers. Mm-hmm. And that's I should have said this earlier. That was my entry point to D&D as well. Is like when I was in the military, it's like these people don't have access to like marginalized folks all the time, and the people who are marginalized in the military are normally just made to feel like one of the collective whole, and we kind of like strip away all of that. Right. Obviously, it can't happen completely, and there's stuff that are messed up in the military and things happen, but I'm like, the reason when I picked up the book and I saw Matthew Mercer, doing Critical Role, and I saw other people doing TTRPGs, I was like, this is a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool to help people grow and learn while having fun. And that's always been the through line for me for any TTRPG that I've been doing, is just how can I use this to better myself and better everyone else around me. So I feel like that is not a natural place for people to jump to with tabletops. I think it's like a great place to jump to, and an extremely mature outlook of it, because it's spot on. But most people, when they first pick up tabletops, they just view it as medium for fun, to say the least, and that's it. Do you think that stemmed from somewhere else, or from watching Critical Role? Because I know that's very much a more emotional trip than most home D&D games. Yeah, I don't know if it stemmed from Critical Role. It was just like my own brain, like neurons firing and being like, I've always like wanted to make an impact in the world, like a positive one. I've always wanted to help other people out. Like that's just been like my personality. I'm always just trying to like make sure everyone's good. And so I think that's my main motivator for TTRPGs. There are one-shots are the times where I chill a little bit about like morality and like perspective, and like, my character is this, backstory because I want to learn this lesson, or I want other people to like see this perspective. And one shots are the only times I'm like, let's let loose. But like anything that I'm doing contiguous or continuously, any long form things that people see me in, there's usually a case for why I'm playing the way I'm playing, you know, why I'm interacting with other characters I am, why the teamwork I'm doing, or whatever. And there's usually a moral or some sort of perspective reason of why I'm doing it. And that's kind of, I don't know why I approach D&D that way, but that's, or TTRPGs that way, but that's always been the case. Other, like I said, then it's a one shot.
No, that's fantastic. Say, I really respect that. I think it takes people a lot of time to get to that place and recognizing it. And you know, when we're taking it back to a character you're currently playing in Faeforged Academy, what would you say you set out to explore with that character?
So one's personal, one's more like, if you know, what would happen if I was like a teenager or like a young adult or kid, and I got the support I needed. And because, like, you know, being ADHD and like just learning about it now and like looking back at stuff, I'm like, oh, the reasons why I wasn't performing that way I needed was because like I didn't know I had this, and also I wasn't getting the support like I needed from my parents, or getting support that I needed from the community, or whatever I was. So like Besky's kind of like my, like the good, if there was like a separation, a quantum separation between me and like this other person, that's what Besky is like, you know, happens everything was all good. You know, obviously there's points of contention for Besky in other ways, but like, that's what Besky is for me. So that's my own personal journey. And then the other side of it is people are seeing, like, obviously you've maybe heard of Faeforged or listened in, and other people have, you know, it's kind of like that Wakanda vibe of like, what if, you know, there was a people of color or black civilization that was, you know, advanced, you know, that wasn't colonized, that wasn't, you know, subject to any sort of rule in a terrible way, and what would that look like, you know, and it being just a normal thing. Like, if people have heard of Faeforged Academy, people know Besky's from Nerine. Nerine's like a place of high magic and all this like wealth and stuff like that, and obviously there's still problems with that come along with it, but I'd like to think that we make it a really natural thing that Besky has access to this. Besky is who he is and has, you know, that network. And it could be it's normalized, right? So I think that's the, like, black excellence is almost like the thing that I carry with Besky when I play him.
Well, that's great. So it definitely sounds like it's, you know, putting a little bit of yourself into your character is a really good way to, I mean, not just relate to your own character, but also just, I guess, get the most out of it. And yeah, it sounds like there's no way to win tabletops, but you're finding it.
Yeah, and I don't want everyone to be like, man, Michael just plays and it's just like a hardcore lesson all the time. Like, no, I have fun.
Right, of course.
There's always fun attached to all this stuff, but that's the whole point. It's like, you can learn new perspectives and learn something, new morality things, and it could all be fun. So,
yeah, and I really do. I like that approach, though, of like, just when you start a character, having that thought of, how do I want to change this character? Like, what is their, like, you know, their initial misconceptions or whatever, or at least like, what do I want to explore? And even starting there before you pick a class or a background or anything, trying to think of like, what character arc are you looking for? Yeah,
it's a great place to start. And it's also, you know, and buddying up with other people, because sometimes people see what you're doing and they get interested, like, as another player character, like, oh, you're going through this journey. Like, I was thinking about my character and like, they're going through the struggle, or like, I've been trying to mull my mind over this concept. And so like, can you help me explore this, like, character to character? I'm like, yeah, this sounds great. So it doesn't just have to be you at the table. Like, sometimes you create that at the table. So.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me. This has been fantastic to have you on. And if you want to plug yourself, you know, where people can find you one more time,
sounds good.
We can do that. Close things out.
Sounds good. And thanks for having me, Jared. Like, it's been awesome talking with you, and I don't think we've ever met formally, so like,
No, I don't think so, actually.
It's awesome. You're pretty cool conversation and had a really good time. So, but yeah, so people can catch me, Michael Critz almost everywhere. So like Twitter is a great place if you want to reach me, because I usually check that. It's the thing I check the most. I've been trying to be better about emails, Discord, 5011 apps under the sun. But when you have ADHD, it's really hard to not, there's so much notifications. I shut everything off and like, it's wild. So, but yeah, Twitter's the best place. You can catch me on Instagram as well. Twitch, when I'm on there, it's irregular because I am a college student. But, and like I said, you check my Twitter out and you'll know when I'm streaming. So that's a place. The project I'm part of is Fae Forge Academy. That's been announced. There is the new one with Critical Bard, which is Let's Get Wildmount. That's just been announced, and I don't know when our first airings. I don't remember when we were first airing that. And then there's a couple more projects under the pipe coming down the pipeline that I can't speak into, but obviously check Twitter for that.
Right. So follow him on Twitter. You'll find it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And I didn't know that about the Critical Bard. I didn't realize that you were joining something with him. Because
just as a quick aside,
yeah.
So I'm playing in that game with Critical Bard, and Kelly the Opera Geek's there, and then there's Nick the Tiefling. I forgot the other person's name, so bad. And then Gil Ramirez is the Dungeon Master. And a funny little thing is, I told you I played in Orange County, and I had my own homebrew game, but when I was still trying to put together a group, I was playing at a little store called Comic Quest. I don't know if it's still there. It might still be there. It should be there. And me and Gil played at the same place. I don't think we played maybe one game together, but the person don't fuck me, Gil.
Right.
I knew Gil. We played in the same place before the don't fuck me thing started. And he came to me when he was starting this idea about dice. He's like, I heard you're from Saddleback. You seem like a really cool person. I have this idea, and what do you think? And so I saw that dream become a reality for him, and now we're all coming back together in this this D&D campaign.
That's really cool.
It's a wild story.
And yeah. I really do wonder how many times you guys are going to say "Don't fuck me, Gil" during the during your game.
Know. I'm gonna try to avoid it, to be honest, because he gets that all the time. Right. So I think it's gonna be said here or there, but much less than people are gonna. I hope as a cast we say it
once. You get your one.
Maybe once every 3 episodes during a time that's gonna be peak funny or peak the moment, but not constantly.
Oh yeah.
I'm hoping. I think that's the way it'll probably go. Is the dragon's gonna do this thing, and we're close to a TPK, and we're don't fuck me. That's probably the best time to use it. So. Yeah,
that's good. That's perfect. Well, that's super exciting. I'm happy to hear about that. I'll have to check it out. And everybody listening, you check it out as well. Do it. You have to. All right. Thanks everyone for joining, and
Thank you.
We'll do this next time. Bye. Hey everyone, if you stuck around this long, thank you. I forgot to record an intro, so I'm just doing this on my normal crappy microphone. Deal with it, I guess. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure to check out our Dice Affiliates, Metallic Dice Games, and you can get yourself some beautiful dice for 10% off using the code MM10. And make sure to follow us on social media, on Twitter, that is @monsters_multi. And, for everything else, just go to monstersmulticlass.com/support, and you got everything. So, that's it. Here's another awkward outro. Still learning this editing thing. Loving it.